What's going on, everybody, man? Welcome to another NFL team preview show. This episode, we are getting into the Tampa Bay Bucs. But before that, we're going to hit you with the intro, man, and we will be coming right back, man. Y'all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's get into it.
TK, the Raisin Man.
All right, here we got the Tampa Bay Bucs, man. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, last season 10-7, of course, losing in the wild card round to the Washington Commanders, but it was definitely a pretty good season for the Bucs, all things considered. You know, they did win their division. This division, it's the NFC South. I'm sorry, y'all, but this isn't the best division in football, but Tampa Bay was the cream of the crop, and they took the crown, man, but they got eliminated by the Commanders, like I said. Bet MGM got them coming in at 9.5 on the win total this year. Strength of schedule, it's not a bad schedule, so again, they can easily achieve that 9.5 wins, man. But we got to take a look at what they did last year before we move forward and take a look at what they did this offseason and how they looking going into the season. So for that, I want to turn it over to my two co-hosts, man, Pat and Coach Ed, man. What's your guys' thoughts on the Bucs last year coming into this season?
Yeah, man, the Bucs last year going into last season, man, they were a bit of a surprise, man. The Buccaneers did pretty doggone well. Their defense played pretty well, and they were on the roll until people like Godwin got hurt, Mike Evans got hurt. There was a lot of injuries with those guys last year, but a couple of young guys stepped up for them. Baker Mayfield had a heck of a season last year. And the Buccaneers, you know, I think they can make some noise, man. Last year, you know, Ty Bowles coaching those guys well. As you can see, Antoine Winfield Jr., those guys were out there making plays. And I think the Buccaneers are a team to be reckoned with, man. They showed last year they played very good defense. The offense was like lights out, you know, Bucky Irvin. And when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in there playing, man, Baker Mayfield was playing like at almost an MVP type level, to be honest with you. So, hey, Coach, let them know a little bit what they did last year. The reason why I'm talking like this, why the Buccaneers were forced last year.
Man, when we go into these numbers, I mean, as you guys are going to see right here, the Buccaneers were really impressive overall as a football team. You know, they scored 502 points, which is fourth in the league. Points against 38 on average, 16th, which is middle of the pack. Their SRS was 6.44, which was 6th. Strength of schedule was 0.44. Now, again, the team stats, their total point score game was 502 yards. But look at that, total yards, 6,793, which was an average of 6.2 yards per play. You know, in passing, they completed 408 completions on 571 attempts, 4,257 yards, 41 touchdowns. Now, they did throw 16 interceptions, so it's a little risky there. Rushing wise, on 483 attempts, they rushed for 2,536 yards, 16 touchdowns, and their average per carry was 5.3. Now, the league ranks in terms of scoring, like I said earlier, was fourth. Their yards was third. Pass yards was third. Touchdowns was second. Pass interceptions was 25th. Now, rushing, they were fourth. Their touchdowns was 14th. Defensively, points scored was 16th, which is middle of the pack. Total yards was 18th. Pass yards was 29th. Pass touchdowns was 19th. The interceptions was 26th. But the rushing defense was fourth, and the rushing touchdowns was 10th. Now, leading that, of course, was Baker Mayfield. I mean, he completed 407. Completed 407 passes on 570 attempts for a 71.4% completion percentage. He threw for 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. So that right there speaks volumes to what he brought to the table. Now, an impactful player for them, either coming in for this year or from last year, I'm actually going with former Giant Ben Bredeson. Now, he played 99% of their offensive snaps, and this is according to PFN. Bredeson, he allowed the lowest pressure rate, 24% in all of the NFL. Their offense ranked fourth in the league in rushing per game, 149.2 per game, third in yards per carry, 5.3. They set the franchise single record in total rushing yards and yards per carry, which is a massive accomplishment and improvement for a team that finished last in rushing in both 22 and 23. So you see the numbers are telling you what they're doing. Bredeson was a big contributor to an offense that ranked third in total yards, fourth in the points scored, and was the only team in the NFL to land in the top 5 in both rushing and passing. Now, if you look at what he did for his career, he's played in 62 games, started 42, had over 3,000 offensive snaps. Receiving, he actually had a receiving no yards, so that was off a deflection. In terms of penalties in his career, 15 total penalties, 9 holding, 5 false starts, and 4 penalties were declined. So this talks volumes of how impactful of a player he was for Tampa Bay last year and how he's been during his whole career. So that's what the numbers tell you. Sending it back to you guys.
Yeah, man. Great breakdown with the numbers. Ben Bredeson is one of those guys we're going to be talking about here as we get into the key additions. But let's take a look at who they will be missing going into next season here as we get into the key losses. The key losses for the Tampa Bay Bucs. It's actually not that bad of a list. Now, Shaq Barrett, I know, has been a player for them in the past. William Golston, Jordan Whitehead, safety. They lost 3 safeties and 2 corners. And from what Coach said, you know, they struggled with their pass defense. So I'm gonna be wanting to see who they added, because yeah, you got to get better on the back end. You know, the rush defense was good, pass defense not so well. The offense was great, but you know, you lost some pieces in your secondary there. So, but guys, who do you feel like out of this list, looking at this list, you got Chase Edmonds, they lost a couple on the offensive line, but who do you feel out of this list that they will be missing the most, man, going into the season?
I'm going to say it's going to be Shaq Barrett. Looking at that list, Shaq Barrett is going to be the guy that they're going to miss the most, man. He's a veteran pass rusher who got after the quarterback for those guys last year, and they're definitely going to need some help rushing that passer this year, especially over there, in the NFC South, man. If they could get that edge rush dominant over in the NFC South, I don't see no reason why the Buccaneers can't come out on top again in the NFC South. But Shaq Barrett is definitely a guy that, is he's just a veteran out there, man. He makes plays. He gets the ball back for them on to the offense so Baker Mayfield could go out there and do what he does. But, Coach, man, who do you think they're going to be missing this upcoming year from that list?
Well, Pat, when you talked about the Shaq Barrett, I mean, that was a player that I was looking at, but I'm going to go ahead and just focus on the offensive line because they had a very good offensive line last year, and their offense was elite last year. So anytime you lose an offensive lineman, whether they're a starter or a backup, that has some effect the following year. So to lose 2 offensive linemen, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch and see what happens to how their offense produces. Are they going to stay up there in the top 3, 4, 5 in the league, or are they going to come closer to the middle of the pack? So I'm going to be looking to see what happens in terms of Hainsey and Skull, what type of effect they have as far as whether they're key contributors or, how do they replace those guys going forward?
Yeah, Coach. But like I said, I don't think this is a bad list, y'all. I don't think they lost a lot, and they were a really good team last year. The Bucs is a very underrated team. So let's see what they did in free agency to strengthen their squad here as we take a look at the key additions. Yeah, man, they signed a couple of their guys. We talked about Ben Bredesen re-signing on a 3-year, $22 million deal. Sterling Shepard, our boy Shep Riggs. he's back with the Bucs on a 1-year deal for $2.25 million. Levante David re-signing, Bryce Hall re-signing, Chris Godwin re-signing. So a lot of re-signings for the Bucs here, and I think that's mostly where a lot of the key signings that they made, were just re-signings. But there's Hassan Reddick, 1-year, $14 million deal. He's definitely going to add to that pass rush coming over from the Eagles. But what's your guys' thoughts on this list, and who do you think is going to be a key addition here for the Bucs going into this year?
All right, one key addition I want to talk about, man, is Mr. Hassan Reddick. Speaking of that guy that I just talked about, Shaq Barrett, losing Shaq Barrett, Hassan Reddick is going to have to step up and take that actual role from Shaq Barrett with this team. Hassan Reddick coming off I think he was crazy. Yeah, he held out for a long time, and then he went to the Eagles. I think he got a Super Bowl with them last year, if I'm not mistaken, and looks like he's going to come over and be the top edge rusher for the Buccaneers going into this season. So Hassan Reddick is that guy that I'm looking at as the best key addition for the Buccaneers this upcoming season. But, Coach, what you think?
Well, spoke about it earlier. Ben Bredesen, I think that's one of the key additions. Charlie Heck, another veteran offensive lineman. What is he going to bring to the table? How impactful can he be to keep their offense as productive as they were, going forward? So, again, I always focus on the trenches, and right here with Tampa Bay, that's kind of where I'm focused on. Yeah, you hit it on Hassan Reddick. He definitely has to come in and step up his game to replace, Shaq Barrett. So, but my biggest focus is the offensive line. Bredesen, lowest pressure rate. Some numbers basically said it, lowest pressure rate in the whole NFL. So that's big right there in itself. So which allowed Baker Mayfield to have the season that he did. So that offensive line, what are they going to bring, especially playing in the NFC South? And we'll see their schedule later on. And what he can do, what that offensive line can do to allow their players to produce.
Yeah, man. Again, a lot of re-signings. So, and that's a good thing when you're doing some of these previews and you're looking at teams bringing their guys back, especially their key contributors. But you got this thing called the NFL draft, and Tampa Bay did participate in that. So let's see what they did in the draft, y'all, and see if they got any better there. Looking at first round pick, Emeka and Agbuka out of Ohio State, wide receiver with the first round 19th overall pick. I thought that was solid right there. Benjamin Morrison, cornerback in round 2, another corner. So they did definitely focused on their secondary there. That was one of their weaknesses. Coach was reading out the stats. So 2 corners there and 2 edge. So they went 2 corners, 2 wide receivers, and 2 edge. 7th round, Tez Johnson out of Oregon. Got to speak to him at the Senior Bowl. I think that would be a steal for Tampa Bay if you could develop him when some of these receivers move on, like a Chris Godwin. You can slide one of these guys in. But, Coach, Pat, y'all know, man, we love the draft, man. We love talking about these draft picks, these college prospects. That is our favorite season. So focusing on this right now, which one of these picks is your favorite or one of your favorites in this draft out of this class for the Tampa Bay Bucs? I thought it was solid, man.
Yeah, they did have a pretty solid draft. And the guy that I'm going to talk about is Mr. Emeka Egbuka from the Ohio State Buckeyes, man. This kid is actually pretty dynamite. And Mike Evans is getting a little long in the tooth. And Chris Godwin has his injury concerns. And I think he's getting to 30 now as well. This kid looks like, man, he's going to play in the slot. He's going to be that guy that's going to, that could probably take over for Chris Godwin if he gets hurt again. He can play on the outside as well. Now, he's not going to be a Mike Evans type receiver, but he's going to be solid and he's going to be dependable throughout his career as long as he stays healthy. And he has deceptive speed too, like Jackson Smith and Jigba over there in Seattle, man. So this guy, Emeka Egbuka, dope find in the first round for them. But Coach, who are you looking at over there with the Buccaneers in their draft this year?
First of all, to add on to what you said about Emeka coming from the actual wide receiver, you say what you want about LSU, but to me, it's the Ohio State University.
Man,
they definitely bring those receivers to the NFL, man. So, and like you said, he can play inside, he can play outside, he can give you a little gadget with some of the reverses. He's going to learn from some good receivers. Don't forget about Sterling, because Sterling plays in the slot, and I agree with you. I think he's penciled into the slot. But the player that I'm intrigued and I think can help them is actually Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame, man. He's played against some high caliber talent, playing at Notre Dame, playing the schedules that they play, and the things that he does. Now, there are some things that he has to be further developed on, but he's a second rounder, so it speaks volumes to his talent. He can play up and give you a little bit in run support on occasion. And to me, he's someone that I'm going to be watching what happens with Tampa Bay going forward. What does he actually bring to the table over there for them? So are they going to play him more inside in the slot? Can he handle being on the outside, playing with the boundary, or is he more suited for the slot, especially giving them some safety over the top help? So I want to see how he's developed and what you get out of him going forward.
Yeah, man. So I agree with y'all, man. Ibuka, I think he gonna be nice with the Bucs, man. I mean, you gotta think, man. They got a veteran laden core of receivers, So bringing in this young talent is important. Now, speaking of that, let's look at their depth chart and see who they do have at receiver and how this thing rounds out. So looking at it here, man, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin again. That 1-2 punch. Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan backing those guys up. But then they got Mbuka slotted in there in the slot, as you guys said, over Sterling Shepard. So that's interesting. The offensive line, I think, is solid too. I think it's solid, man. They got Wharf still there. Bredesen, they signed. We talked about him. Graham Barton at center. Cody Mock, and then Luke Godike at right tackle. Cade Otton is a very underrated tight end in this league. Bucky Irvin him and Tyrone Tracy was 1-2. I think Bucky Irvin had a better season last year as a rookie running back. And Baker Mayfield, man, again, an underrated quarterback, cast aside by the Browns and a couple other teams, but found a home in Tampa, and look, they got the Bucs out there, in playoff contention year after year. Now, it's always come down to that defense, though, fellas. For me, it always comes down to that defense, and looking at the back end of that defense, they do have Antoine Winfield Jr., but Zion McCollum, Jamel Dean, Christian Eisen, Tyke Smith. I mean, is this enough, man? I like the front end. Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey, Hassan Reddick adding to that pass rush. I like that. Levante David at linebacker. So I kind of like their front seven. I'm concerned on the back end, though. What are your guys' thoughts on this Tampa Bay roster, man? Talk to me.
All right, Coach. As you always know, NYG gives it off to us. I'm going to handle the offense. You handle the defense. So I'm going to talk about this offense right quick, man. Listen, when you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka, I know he's a rookie, but I think he's going to be super solid. I think your receiving core is in very good hands. You got Trey Palmer, another LSU receiver that went to Nebraska, the real receiver LSU, not Ohio State, sir. I'm sorry. And then you got Jalen McMillan from another good receiving school in Washington. You got old man Ricks there. You got Raheem Jarrett from Maryland. I mean, their receivers are dope. So, but gotta get to the offensive line. Tristan Wirfs, can he stay healthy? Ben Bredesen, underrated. Graham Barton, we got to see if he can hold up that center position. Cody Mock, very good. And Luke Godek, he was very good last year. Cade Otton, NYGU, was absolutely correct. Very underrated in this league. He was actually pretty doggone dope last year. And Payne Durham is very good as well. Baker Mayfield, 41 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, enough said. And Bucky Irvin and Rachaad White is a very good 1-2 punch. And don't forget about Sean Tucker at the third running back, brings that speed element to this team. So I think these guys are going to be pretty dope on offense again. But Coach, tell them about the defense.
I mean, the defense, NYG, you said it, the front seven, pretty sound. That you really are. Starts up front, it actually starts with big Vita Vea, man.
Yeah.
That right there, if you solidify the middle of the defense, it does a whole lot of wonders for everything else. It allows your linebackers in David and Servachi Dennis to be able to flow freely and make plays because offenses are going to be forced to double team, and that's what Vita Vea does. And don't think he's just a run stopper. He can get after the quarterback up front. Now you're bringing in Hassan Reddick, to come off of the edge, with Logan Hall and Kalijah Cansey up front. This front seven is good. Now we did speak on the back end. Antoine Winfield Jr. as a free safety. Christian Izzy out of Rutgers. People, you talk about an underrated tight end. People forget how good he really is. He was undrafted mostly because he's a small nickel safety type of a player. That's really what it boils down to. But when he's at Rutgers, the kid was all over the place, and this is the same thing he has done for Tampa Bay. They see his ability and what he does playing run support as well as in coverage. Now Jamal Dean, he's going to be pressed, like I said about Benjamin Morris. Christian also, he's going to have some competition with Jacob Harris behind him, to push him. And I think he's going to step up to the plate. He has that Shiano mentality. That's another head coach who does wonders coaching up the defensive backfield. So this defense has the tools to step up and be a lot better than what the numbers spoke about last year. So, like I said before, I'm intrigued. Going to be watching Benjamin Morrison. They have him slided on the outside. How long before he takes over the starting spot on that outside cornerback position? So that's pretty much it in terms of this defense. Going to be intrigued to see what they do going forward, especially in the NFC South. And I'm intrigued to see who they're going up against too.
That's a fact. NYG, back to you,
Yeah.
big dog.
Speaking of, let's take a look at this schedule because they won 10 games last year. They got him at 9.5. Y'all got to talk to me though about this schedule, man, because it's ranked 19th. So it should present an opportunity for some wins, but I see an opportunity also for some slippage. Because week 2, okay, you starting off with Atlanta. Say you beat Atlanta. Say you the king of the South, so to speak, and you beat Atlanta. But then you got Houston. You got the Jets, who, don't get it twisted, they got a good defense, and I think Aaron Glenn is going to be a good coach. We'll see what they do on offense. Philly, the champs. Then you got Seattle, another tough team. San Francisco, Detroit. That's a tough stretch right there, But outside of that, I mean, you got a 3-game stretch there with Buffalo, the Rams, Cardinals. But I mean, you play in the South, so your division isn't, rock 'em, knock 'em, sock 'em. So, you should pick up wins against Carolina and New Orleans. But can they get to 10 wins again? Because they got them at 9.5. Y'all talk to me, man. We're going over under. What we doing?
Yeah, with that schedule there, bro. Atlanta, Houston, New York, Philly, Seattle, San Francisco, Detroit. After those, first 7 games? It's kind of coasting. You got the Patriots. Yeah, you got Buffalo and the Rams. Then you got the Cardinals, the Saints, Atlanta, Carolina, Miami, Carolina. I'm going over, man. I think they can get 10 wins again, man. They can survive that first part of the season and have a 4-3. Even if they're 3-4, I still think they get to 10-7. So yeah, I'm going over, man. Coach, what you think?
I see why they have them at 9.5. The bookmakers are smart as hell, man. They are real smart as hell, because
shout out to GM Graham, man.
Bro, I'm sitting here. They have to start out well because, the back end, okay, I get it. But you're playing the AFC East and the NFC West. So Atlanta to start on the road, it's not as easy as you think. It's a division win, and it starts out in Atlanta. You're familiar with them, okay. And then you got Houston. If you start out 0-2, it's going to be a struggle from there. I'm sorry. We don't know what's up with the Jets, but at least you're hosting them, so maybe you can get that. Philly, the champs, bro, you can't play. Your defense has to be on par to handle Philadelphia. I don't want to sit here and say you're going to go blow for blow because they have a good defense. Then you got to fly from the Gulf Coast to the Pacific Northwest, right around the beginning of October. It's not as cold, but there's a cool briskness. So you're going from the hot weather to a cool briskness. San Francisco, okay, what San Francisco are we going to have by then, by week 6? What's going on with them? Okay, so that could be a tough one. People are projecting San Francisco to be a contender, so I'm going to say, okay, they're going to be a contender. So it's going to be a tough game, but they're on par with them. Detroit, by then Detroit will have the coordinator situation figured out. Right here, though. So right there, like you said, if they can go 3-4, second half can be more to their advantage. I will say this: to really be an elite team with this schedule, they're going to need to sweep their division. They need to be undefeated in their division based on the. And I'm only saying that because of the start of the season. With Houston, with Philly, going to Seattle, Frisco, Detroit. If those teams are playing at an elite level, they have to be to get to 10 wins. They have to sweep their division, man. They have to. And with the AFC East, at least go 2-2. The NFC West, same thing. That's going to get you to at least 10 wins right there alone. So I'm going to go, they're going to be over because the way their offense played last year, the additions that they have, I'm going to give them the 10 wins. I'm not going to say 11. I question it, but I'll give them 10 wins like they did last year. Now, if their defense can step up and play like we just broke down, then maybe I could see 11, maybe pushing to 12, maybe. But everything is starting with the beginning. So back to you.
There's 3 games that I definitely think they're going to be underdogs in. And that's Philadelphia, that's Detroit, and that's, 4 games, Buffalo and the Rams. I think they're underdogs in all those games. Every other game on the schedule, you could go either way. You could say they could win, they could lose. I think those 4 games are definite L's. And if you sort of split, or you sort of, win most of the other ones, 10 wins it's very achievable. I think 4 games on there, you say it's a good chance they're going to lose. They could win, but it's a good chance they're going to lose. All the other games I'm looking at, I'm like, they could beat San Francisco. They could beat Houston, Atlanta, the Jets, Seattle. So yeah, I'm going over. Going over for the Bucs, man. This is a solid team. They definitely got a solid offense. I think their defense will be better this year with the addition of Hassan Reddick and what they did in the draft. David Walker, man, that kid too. He's underrated too as well. Central Arkansas pass rusher. So
definitely is.
Yeah. So I think they're gonna be. I think they're gonna be all right on defense. I don't think it's gonna be a defense that's gonna be shutting people down. But I think if their defense plays average, they'll win 10 games. But that's been the Bucs preview, man. We coming right back with the Falcons, the Dirty Birds, man. Let's get into it.